So today, we're going to be talking all about Power BI Desktop, what's new, what's in the works, what's coming. So first, I wanted to get a show of hands. Who is new to Power BI Desktop? OK, good mix. OK, so we're going to spend some time kind of going through what we've shipped over the last 6 months. If you're not reading our blog as diligently as we'd hope, we're going to go ahead and kind of summarize that for you and show you some of our favorite features that we've released recently. And then we'll go into some of the new features that are coming out, give you a little bit of an extended demo on some of the things you may have seen in the keynote. So I'm Kim Mannis. I'm Group Program Manager for Power BI Desktop. And I'll let Will and Amanda introduce themselves. Amanda?
Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm a program manager on the Power BI Desktop team. My main focus is on visuals and reporting features.
My name is Will Thompson. I'm another one of the PMs on the desktop team. My main focus is around the modeling and analytics side. I do a little bit of visual stuff, so the matrix and tables and slicers. And then there's one other guy on our team, one other PM, Paul Sanders. He's another English guy. I don't know how we ended up with two Brits on the team. He looks after more of the connectivity side, direct query, and connections to things like SAP and the like. He's doing some other sessions today, I think, so he is around.
All right. So first, I just wanted to give you an overview of how Power BI Desktop fits into the whole Power BI ecosystem. So Power BI Desktop is really your end-to-end authoring tool. This is where you go to connect to data, you do your data prep, you do your modeling activities, you create interactive reports, and then finally you publish those up to the Power BI service. Once your reports are in the Power BI service, there's loads of capabilities there, including automatic data refresh, email subscriptions. You can share and collaborate with others. You can view those reports on any mobile app. We have mobile apps for all the major platforms. So Power BI Desktop is kind of your starting point and your main authoring tool. Power BI Desktop is free to download. You can go download it today at powerbi.com. And like I said, it's that dedicated workflow. So we expect analysts to kind of live in Power BI Desktop every day to do all of their authoring tasks. We update monthly. Every month, there's a lot of features in each release. So we know it's a little bit hard to keep up with since it's changing so rapidly. If you think it's hard to keep up with, imagine how we feel keeping up with all those changes. But today we're going to spend a lot of time just going through what we've changed recently to give you an overview, and we'll do a bunch of demos. So most of this session will be demos. And then we'll talk about what's coming next. So I'm going to kick it off and talk about connectivity and data prep. So there are loads of connectors. I think we have over 70 connectors now in Power BI Desktop. Pretty much anything you can imagine, from a local Excel file to an online Azure database to third parties, Salesforce, Facebook, Google Analytics. So really anything you can imagine. At Build, we announced that you can build your own connectors. So that's a new area that we've launched. And Miguel has a whole session on connectivity and data prep in Power BI Desktop. So if you haven't seen that, you can watch that one online. But that's really going to go in depth in that area. But there were two features I wanted to highlight today, two that kind of really changed the workflow in Power BI Desktop. And they are connecting to data sets in the service and add column by example. So I'm just going to jump into demos and show you how those work. So we're going to open up Power BI Desktop, and we're going to go ahead and get data. And today, we'll just use an Excel file. But as I said earlier, loads of options, databases, a bunch of the online services you're probably already using. But let's use Excel. I'm going to go ahead and use this Contoso file. This has just a bunch of sales data. So I'm going to go ahead and use the sales table for my report. And you can see here I get a preview of it. I could load that and go just start creating a report. But instead, I'm going to go into Edit. And so this opens the query editor that allows me to transform, clean up, prep my data for use. There's a lot of actions here. So you can do anything from changing data types. You can split columns, pivot columns, unpivot columns, add new ones. There's a lot here. And there's a new feature that we've released a couple months ago called Add Column by Example. So you'll see that one here. This one really makes it easy to quickly transform your data. So I'm going to show you how we do that. So we have this order date column here, right? And it's just formatted as a date, but I just want to pull out the month. So there are transforms to do this in the UI. You can go find them. Sometimes it's hard to find. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new column from example. And when I do that, you see I get a blank column here. So I'm just going to go in and start typing. And you see, as of the June release of Desktop, you start getting autocomplete as well, which is really helpful if you don't really know what you're looking for. So I'm going to take this order date, and I'm just going to start typing October. And I'm going to go ahead and click October and press Enter. And when I do that, it just autofills the rest of the data. And it knows that, OK, this one's December, this one's December. And when I press OK, it just applies it. And I can go ahead and, month of sale, and name that. And this is a really quick way to just get started with data prep. There's a lot of power in this part of the product, in the query editor. You can learn the M expression language and do a lot more. But just getting started, this is a great way to just go. So I'm going to do that one more time. Let's do, I can even write a sentence. In October, sales were 24, there we go, 249, press enter. And you can see it picks up what I just wrote, autofills it. So add column by examples, a great way to just start transforming your data without really needing to know how the product works.
How many of you have used flash fill in Excel? So this is
awesome.
The
Same thing.
Same technology behind the scenes.
Yep.
Figures out, based on the other things that's in your data, you give it an example and it will figure out, OK, which bits came from which column, what transformations happened on each of those things to result in this, and then gives you the results.
Yep. Awesome. So once I'm done, I'll go ahead and close and apply that. And you'll see all the changes I made now show up in the field list on the right-hand side. So that's one way we've made your workflow easier in Power BI Desktop. There's another one I wanted to show you. So we're going to open up a new file here. And who here is collaborating with others kind of on the same data set? So you're kind of working across a team on the same data set. You're building a bunch of different reports for the same data set. Yeah, OK, a bunch of you. So one of the things we hear all the time is the data prep part, the modeling part, takes up 70, 80% of my time. The report authoring, I love doing it. It's easy. It's fun. The data prep, I just have to sit there and I have to write measures. I have to do all these transforms. I have to clean up my data. I have to know, what the errors are that I need to go fix. So what we've introduced is the ability to connect to the Power BI service and use data sets that you already have access to in new reports in Power BI Desktop. So what that allows you to do is really split up your workflow. You can start by creating the data model, do all the data prep, publish it up, set up automatic refresh, share it with others, put it in a group workspace. And now anybody who has edit access to that data set can go and create new reports off of it without needing to know about the data model. They just use it. So I'm going to show you how that works. Let's go to Get Data again. And this time we'll go to Online Services. And you'll see here Power BI Service is now an option. So when I click that, I get a list of all my workspaces. And I'm going to go into the Data Insights Summit workspace. I'm going to use this demo data set. And when I load this, I'm going to get a live connection to my data model. So right there, this is a data model I've already created. You can see I've done some data prep, like I've created some clusters already. I could create a bunch of measures and publish those up. So this work has been done for me already, and all I need to do is create a report off of it. So I'm going to go ahead and let's create a scatter chart. Let's use those clusters by likelihood of purchasing again. Let's make that an average. And let's use NSAT. So sorry, my network's a little bit slow. So now we can start to see, oh, I see what this one is. This is product ID. Sales, product ID. And we'll put that in the legend there. So now I'm just using the modeling that's already been done, and I can create a bunch of reports on top of this same model. You can see here it's read-only, so I can't do most of my modeling activities that I would have if I was starting from scratch. We'll talk a little bit about measures in a minute, but really this enables a new workflow, right? You can now have somebody on your team go be the data modeling expert, go spend all their time data modeling, and then you can split up all the work on visualizations and on report creation using that same data set. So yeah, this is a huge area. It supports direct query models. As of the June release of Desktop, we also support real-time models. So you can go in and you can use your real-time models in Power BI Desktop, which is brand new. So this is just a whole new way to collaborate, a whole new way to kind of co-author with your colleagues. Let's jump back to the slides. So that, I'm going to hand it over to Will to talk about modeling.
Okay, Kim's already touched on this a little bit. Modeling and analytics, this is all about enriching your data. Once you've imported it in from whatever source you're connected to, adding and enriching more things like adding new measures, new calculations on top of that, and then running some of the more advanced modeling and analytics capabilities on there, things like clustering, like you saw in the demo, forecasting and the like on top as well. And there have been a whole bunch of features that have been added there, not quite as many as on the reporting side, but hopefully I think you'll agree just as important, including some things like new matrix and table visuals. That kind of falls under the analytics area because we know that tables are one of the key ways that people drill down and find insights in their data. And that crucial bit, that drill down piece, was one of the areas that we focused on for those visuals, being able to expand and drill through hierarchies in your tables. But as I said, the majority of the kind of modeling and analytics space is around adding calculations and adding new information on top of your model. And one of the areas in there then is the DAX language and adding DAX calculations. We found that people struggled to get started with DAX and that it's a very difficult language to master. So something we heard loud and clear was, give me an easy way to go and create some of the common business calculations that I want to see on my models, and help me use those as a stepping stone to learning how the DAX language works. And so the quick measures was a feature that we released back in April, I think, to do just that. It's currently in preview. There's a few more things that we want to work on before we kind of take that label off. But it's available to try out, and there's a bunch of measures there. I'll show you some more of that. The other key area that we added recently was around the ability to add measures and add calculations just within your report when you're live connected to another model that's somewhere else. So works in two main scenarios. One is when you're connected to an external analysis services model that potentially somebody in your IT organization has created, or somebody who's a kind of professional BI modeler. And the other one is when you're connected up to the Power BI service, just as Kim showed you. So if somebody else has created a data set or created something using Power BI Desktop and published that up to the service, you can go connect to that, and you can actually still create measures against it. So I'm going to do a quick demo of those two things to continue. So I'm going to use the same workbook that Kim showed to start with and show you how these report measures work. So if you remember, I'm live connected to a data set that exists in the service. So currently, I can't go and edit that data set. I can't go and rename any of these columns. And if I try and double-click on things, nothing happens. Hopefully, you can hear me clicking away when I do that. So I can't rename things. I can't change the data type of these columns, for example. But what I can do using this new report measures feature is actually add new measures, add new calculations when I'm working against this external model. And these work and look just like any other measure. So I will get, hopefully, it does rely on having a network connection. Okay, great. I'll get my little formula bar will appear, and I can start typing things in here, so I can give this a name. You'll have to excuse me typing one-handed. So sum of sales. I'm going to do the simplest DAX calculation ever, which is sum of units. Hit enter, and now we'll see that appear in my field list. But crucially, this hasn't been written back into that model. I don't necessarily have write access to that model. I may not be the owner of that model, but I can still write further calculations on top of it. So I'll see this will appear somewhere, hopefully. Why is that not refreshing?
Our network is a little slow.
All right. It would appear in there, and it would look exactly the same as any other measure, except when I click on it, now I can see the DAX formula and edit it. And what's actually happening here is that anytime you then use that measure in a query, in a visual, we wrap it up into the query that visual is generating and just fire that whole thing back up to the service. So if you've ever used, if you're from an MDX background and you've used things like define measure, you can do this in the DAX query language today as well. We're doing exactly the same thing, these kind of query scoped measures, if you will. So measures at the start, they're really useful in terms of just being able to quickly go and enrich those models a little bit further. We've heard people saying, well, the typical scenario, I create my cube or I create my data set that's been published, but the folks who are using it say, yeah, but you forgot to add the field for profit, or you forgot to add the field for the forecast or whatever it is. Okay, go ahead and add your own DAX calculation for doing that, and it just exists within the report. On the other side of that, there's been requests for the person who owns that model to say, well, what report measures are being used against my model? Because maybe I should go and add those as just standard things in the model underneath it. And we did a blog post a little while ago about how if you're the owner of one of those AS analysis services models, you can turn on Profiler, save the output of that, and actually we've got a little script that parses out what are the report measures that people are using. So if you want to monitor that and sort of see what other things maybe you should add to your model, really easy way of doing that. Okay, so that was one demo, and my other one is going to be around quick measures, which is in one of these other ones, hopefully. Here we go. So it's all very well being able to write a column. That's a nice, easy DAX formula. Hopefully everyone can try that out and get the hang of that. But more complicated ones to address kind of common business questions like year-to-date or year-over-year growth or ratio to parent, those kind of calculations take a little bit more, and when people are kind of learning DAX, they can be a bit of a challenge sometimes. So we added this quick measures feature to make it really, really simple to build those. So I'll show you a couple of examples. I've got a simple chart here just showing my unit sales over time. And if I want to use one of these quick measures, I go to the field list, and I'll see a quick measures option. Or I can do it from the field list over here, quick measures from this. And we're going to add a button in the ribbon as well. We've heard a lot of people say that's where I expect to find it. But for now, it's just there. And the quick measures dialog that I then get lets me choose, well, which calculation do you want to do? And this is where we'll see those time intelligence functions, year to date, year over year, difference from a particular time period or particular filtered value. I could do things like running totals, total for a particular category. There's some simple mathematical operations, and even text fields. You probably saw this one in the keynote. So let's start off with a quick year to date. So it's a nice simple one. We're going to use the sum of units, which is the field that's already in this table. And we're going to use the order date column. And actually, that's really important to spot, is that when you launch that quick measures dialog from the field well, we actually look at the fields that you've already used in the visual to save you having to go hunt around for the ones you want. Chances are you probably want to do it on the fields that are already in there. So we try and sort of pick those ahead of time. So great, actually, it's got it right. That's what I want to do. Year to date for units over the order date.
Switch.
Oh, yeah, it did. What happened there? Okay, so it's created my calculation. And you can see here it's doing my total year to date for the unit sales over the order date column. And the resulting thing is just dropped into my visual, so I can see we're adding up things quarter by quarter and resetting each year. So it's doing all that stuff for me, didn't have to learn the syntax, didn't have to remember what functions to use, just drops it straight in. And of course, I can go back and edit the measure if I want to, edit that DAX formula. Good way to start learning. So let's do one other. I'm going to create one of those text measures for this one. Two reasons I'm really proud of this one. One, it was submitted by somebody in our community. Does everybody know Devin Knight? Works for a company called Pragmatic Works. Is he sitting over there or something? It's like the one hand that goes up there. Works for a company called Pragmatic Works, who are a great kind of trainer, amongst other things. And he suggested this through our quick measures gallery. This is producing a list of values for whatever category I specify. So if I wanted to go in and say, give me a list of the subcategories and show 3 of them, and after that show, etc. I generate this one, and it will actually add it to the tooltips by default, because that's where we can put text. This is a slightly longer and slightly more complex DAX formula. But what it means is now when I hover over one of these, I'll see here a list of the subcategory values for that particular category. So in our computers category, we have accessories, desktop, laptops, etc., because it's truncated it. Second reason that I'm proud of this is because I wrote the code for it. This is really scary. We've got program managers writing code. But actually, it's one of the reasons why we kind of built this quick measures feature is that we can add them fairly quickly now. There's kind of a templated thing that we do, so it's very simple for us to take the quick measures that you guys are submitting in the galleries and turn them into quick measures that exist in the product. So hopefully you'll see more and more of these coming out in the coming months. Okay. That's me. I'll pass over to Amanda.
So on the visuals and report authoring features, you can see we have a very long list. I obviously do way more work than Will does here. I have the most features. But we really try to, on the visuals team, do a couple of different bigger features at the same time as reaching some smaller formatting features as well. So for example, being able to change the font size on your axis category, or having more options for renaming your chart axis and renaming and changing font size, and all these smaller formatting features that we know are really important. We try to release a couple of those at the same time as working on some bigger features in the visual space. So for example, report theming we released in the last few months, and we've done some work around adding some new slicer types that we know are very requested within the community. And we've also added that same matrix that Will talked about. We've added some more formatting, conditional formatting options in that matrix as well with data bars. And so that's really how we get such a long list, is we try to do a couple of these big features while also sprinkling in as much as we can all of those smaller features as well. So I'm going to demo a couple of the big features I just mentioned: theming, data bars, and some slicers. So I'm going to go over to this report that Will was working on. And the first thing I'm going to do is I want to spice it up a little bit. I'm bored with the default color palette, and I want to apply my own personal color palette. And using the report theming preview that we have, I'm able to do that. I can define my own custom color palette, either using the corporate theme, my corporate theme. So if you're in a big company and you have a marketing team that says, these are our colors, you must use them in all of your reports, you can do that with theming. And also, if you are perhaps in a smaller company and you want your colors to kind of be more fun or match the theme of the report, you can do that as well. We also, if you want to get inspired, we have in our community this great themes gallery that you can use to get inspired, see other people's color palettes, and if you really like one, you can choose to download that color palette and use it in your report as well. And so this is a really great way to start taking advantage of this feature, even if you aren't on the design side, you don't know what colors go good together. So I'm going to go, and I'm going to use this button, the ribbon called Switch Theme, and I'll click Import. And what I can do now is I can pick the color palette that I want to use in my report. It's just a JSON file that lists out all of the data colors I want to use. And once I import it, it just automatically applies to all of the charts in my report. And if you look at the color palette as well, in any of the places where we can define colors, you can see we generate all the nice gradients of the colors you define as well, so you can take advantage of that. So now that I've kind of customized this and made it a little bit prettier, I would say, I'm going to take this matrix that Will was working on before, and I want to be able to compare the numbers a lot easier across each other, and just by looking at the numbers, that can be really hard. So we've added this new conditional formatting options called data bars, actually in the June release. And what this does is whenever you apply it, it will automatically create, similar to a bar chart, a little bar filling up all the cells. The more it's filled, the higher the value, the less it's filled, the smaller the value. And so this makes it really easy to compare across all the values in my column. So I'll pick the field I want, so units, and I'll go over to conditional formatting. And you'll see in here you have the color scales, which is what we've had for quite a while of being able to do a gradient. And you'll have data bars as the new option. And in this dialog, I can do some customization, like I can choose if I want the number to show or not along with the bar. I can pick colors. So I'm going to assign the positive color to match my theme. And when I hit OK, it automatically applies those data bars across my whole column. And now it's a lot easier to tell within each of the different sections how the values compare across each other. I can also apply this to multiple columns within my same matrix, and then it's easier as well to compare across the values. So, for example, if I had sales in one column and units in the other, I could easily see, like, okay, this one had more sales in dollars, but this company didn't sell as many units. And so being able to do a cross comparison within the columns is another great use of this feature. So once you've started building out your report and you want to think about like sharing that out with others, a common thing you want to provide users who are consuming your report is to be able to play with the filters. So being able to, I can only care about sales in the United States, so filter down my sales to just the most recent, to just my country. And so with that in mind, we've been spending a lot of time expanding the abilities of our slicer visual. We want to make sure it's really easy for you to have a slicer that works for the type of value you want them to slice by. So, for example, one of the new slicers we've added recently is a numeric range slider. So if I take this slicer visual and I add in, say, my satisfaction score into here, I automatically get a range slider because that's what makes sense for a numeric value instead of the common list slicer that we've had for quite a while. I automatically get a range slider that someone can use and say, okay, if I'm really concerned about products that are having really bad satisfaction scores, so I can go down and just by adjusting the slider, limit my entire view to just the scores with 3 or less. And there's a lot of flexibility here. You can choose, by default, it gives you the option to control both the bottom and the top number, but I can adjust that to be between, instead of just being between two values, it can be less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. So we provide a lot of flexibility here. We also have, this slider will also work with dates as well, so if you want to have a date range, it works with that as well. And if you, as I mentioned earlier, you could use this for categories as well. So I'm going to take my list of subcategories, and I want to be able to allow my users to slice by that. And by default, it becomes the standard list slicer, but this is a very long list. I don't want it to take up room on my canvas. It's kind of annoying. So I'm going to convert this to a drop-down slicer. And now, instead of having to use all of that room on my canvas just to allow people to filter to each of the individual subcategories, I can just use the drop-down, save a lot of space, but still has the same power as the list slicer. I can search it, I can select as few or as many as I want, and then close it and see the filter being applied. And so these are just a few of the visual-related filters that we've added. Like I said, we've done a lot of formatting features as well, so make sure you check out all of the different formatting features that we've enabled over the last 6 months or so.
And just crash it.
Yeah.
Here, switch.
Give us one moment.
All right, jump back to those slides.
Yeah, custom visuals are next. So the next section we're going to talk about, after talking about all the visual features that we've added ourselves, is the power of custom visuals. So if you don't know, custom visuals are a way that you can, if you really need a visual and we don't have it built into the product by default, you can either write it yourself and have full customization of how that visual works and how it interacts, or you can take advantage of the amazing community we have that's already building out all of these custom visuals, and they publish them up into our great gallery, and you can just download them and start using them in your own reports as well. And over the last 6 months, you can see the community has released a ton of new custom visuals. There's a big range of what they can do. There's new map types like flow and route maps. There's the ability to, there's even things like text wrapping, and there's, like KPI grids. There's just a whole range of ability, from some more fun, like one of the original ones we released was an aquarium visual of little fish floating around. So there's some that are more fun and creative, and then there are some that are very powerful in terms of the analytic capabilities. And recently, or what we will be doing very shortly, is that same custom, is that installed here?
Yeah.
The same ability that we have to go to the Office store and download a custom visual, we're bringing that right directly into the desktop as well. So very soon, whenever I go to into the ribbon, I'll see this new custom visuals option, and I can go directly from the store and pick out what visual I want to use in my report. And this is a whole lot more convenient than having to go to a separate web page and download that visual and then go to the report and pick it. So for example, I can just search for, I know I need a more powerful map than the ones that are coming with the product, so I just type in map and search, and I'll be able to see all of the map visuals that have been created in the community. I can see their ratings. I can decide if it's one that I want to integrate into my product, and once I've decided that I like it, I can click add, and it will automatically add that visual into my report, and now I can start using that visual.
So one question that a couple of people have asked over the last day or so around these custom visuals was how they get vetted and how they get reviewed before they go into the store. So obviously there is, this is arbitrary JavaScript that's running in these visuals, so it could do kind of anything. We do security review them, and we do make sure they're not doing anything malicious before they go into the store. Yep. There's actually an even more stringent set of requirements for them to get into the Office store. But they're not supported by Microsoft. So if you have any problems with it and they don't behave as expected, you can get in touch with the developer of those visuals to get any help. But feel confident that they're not going to do anything malicious. Go and use them, try them out. They're great.
The other thing to call out is using the Office store, now we have ratings and reviews on custom visuals. So before it was just kind of a long list in time order of when they were submitted. You can actually now sort by suggested for you, by highest rating. So now you can look and see, okay, which ones are kind of getting the top ratings from other users. And we're hoping that the community will really drive popularity of these kinds of visuals. The other trick on custom visuals that's cool is if I go to the Office store, a lot of these custom visuals are complicated to use. Your data has to be set up just so, or you kind of have to know how to use it. So if I go into the Office store and I look at Power BI, a really good trick is when I pick any of these visuals, I can actually go and download a sample of the report. So I'll switch over to Amanda because she has one downloaded already, but you can just download a sample and start using it right away. So that's a really good trick if you kind of don't know how to use some of these visuals.
Right, so the same route map that I had just installed into that previous version of the previous desktop file that you're looking at, I've already downloaded the sample for it. The samples are really great because they come with pre-made data that shows you really how the visual can be best used. So this route map is actually really cool. And in the sample data, what it's showing is how taxis travel. You notice that so the data includes things like the number of the taxi, where its position was at any given time, and also is it currently occupied or not. And by just having that data, I can put it on the route map, and I can just see across my city all the taxis, where they're moving, when are they taken and empty. So you'll see in the legend here that purple means taken, green is empty, and for each of my different taxis, they have a different style for the line. And then I can, of course, they work just as well as any of our core visuals. I can start to filter down into individual ones using the same slicers. They're fully integrated into the product. And you can do some really cool things here that are customized. You can imagine if you work in some kind of transportation field, you can imagine, following the routes of all of your trucks as they are distributing products. And so you'll be able to find any kind of visual that matches the needs of your company with this method.
Yep. Cool, so let's jump back to the slides. Switch machines. All right. So I'm sure a bunch of you are here just to see if your favorite feature is coming to Power BI soon. So we'll talk at a high level kind of about where we're going. We'll give you a little bit of preview of what's coming. And then we'll just do some more demos. I know you saw a bunch of what's to come in the keynote. We'll go a little bit deeper into some of those features and show you a little bit more that we didn't have time there. So do you want to talk about enterprise readiness?
Yeah, so we've seen huge adoption of Power BI over the last couple of years. And more large organizations are adopting it and rolling it out across the whole enterprise. And it brings a whole new set of challenges. So some of the things that we're really looking at addressing is particularly around how you roll out Power BI Desktop across a large organization. We're shipping every month, and for people to keep those things updated and manage that across a large estate is a bit of a challenge. So one of the first things that we're going to do is making this available through the Windows Store. So you'll get automatic updates. It'll happen in the background. You won't need to go and re-download it every month. You won't need to be an admin to do that. Is that useful for you guys?
Who's excited about that one?
Who's excited about that? So obviously the limitation is that you have to be on Windows 10. Is that a problem? You have to be on Windows 10 because it's Windows Store. Hands up if you still be able to take advantage of that. It's a genuine question because this is really easy for us to do, but it gives me an idea that maybe 20%, 10% of the people here will be able to take advantage of it. So there's obviously more we need to do. So we're thinking about the other thing we can do, it's going to take a bit longer, is moving this into Microsoft Update, which means that it'll come down just like any other update that you'd get through there. It also means that if you're using things like System Center Configuration Manager within your organizations, they can push that out much more simply as well. I'd love to hear from you if you are a IT admin type of person who manages the rollout of Power BI Desktop, or if you work carefully with those guys. Because obviously pushing things out through a CCM is a bit of a challenge, and we want to do everything that we can to make their lives easier. So I'd love to have that conversation with you. Feel free to come up and we'll have a chat afterwards. But yeah, an area that we're really going to focus on around enterprise.
Yep. So another area we're continuing to invest in is around connectivity. So we have over 70 data sources. Every month we're coming out with more and more. There are a bunch of updates in the June release. With the extensibility options around connectors now, you can build your own connectors if we don't have one, so we're going to continue to invest in that area. Another area we hear a lot about is, what if I'm working with a really large data set or a really slow data set? Maybe the database I'm using is just slow. So we're going to invest a bit in making sure we handle that better, right? That we kind of acknowledge, hey, you're working with a slow data set. Are there things we can do to send less queries to kind of ease the load on that backend data set? So that's another area around connectivity that we definitely are planning on investing in. Amanda, you want to talk about visuals?
Yep. So a lot of what we're going to be doing in visuals is following the same pattern you've already seen for the last 6 months. We're going to be continuing to iterate on all of our formatting options for our visuals. We're going to add things like being able to customize your font, more control over data labels, being able to rename a field in a very specific chart. We're going to continue to add every single month more and more of these formatting features that really give you full control over how your visuals look and feel on your report. We're also, again, going to be working on some bigger things as well. One big thing I want to call out is the theming option I showed earlier. It's in preview mainly because we do want to continue iterating on that and adding more power to it. So one thing we're planning on doing is we're going to be allowing you to not only define data colors in your theme and other report level attributes, but also allow you to be able to define a style for any of your given charts on your report as well. So if there's a specific formatting options for table or matrix that you always use, like you don't like alternating rows, backgrounds, but you do like grid lines, you can control that and you define it once as part of your theme. You can write that in there and then be able to import that into all of your workbooks and be able to just have a consistent feel across all of your reports.
Yep. And around exploration and discovery, so if you guys saw the keynote, there's a lot we're doing in this space with the combination of quick insights in desktop, with drill through to other pages in a report, and with bookmarking, we're really creating new ways to explore and discover with your data. So I'm going to jump to a demo for a sec. And we'll jump back to that report we were using during the keynote. So there were a couple of things I wanted to highlight that we didn't get a chance to talk about during the keynote because we were just going through so much so quickly. And it's really pointing out how some of our new analysis features, especially around quick insights, not only bring the power of machine learning to end users, but they also just make it really quick and easy to author reports. So I'm going to show you a little bit of how we do that. So I have this analysis here of movies looking at worldwide gross over time. And you see there are peaks and valleys in this. And yesterday we talked about how you can explain the increase between 2 points in your line. So there are a couple other gestures we have that we didn't get a chance to show. So I'm going to go through some of those here. So now when I right-click, actually let's jump out of here. When I right-click on this point in my line chart, not only do I get I get new options. So you can see here, I also get explain the decrease, and I get find additional insights. So let's go into some of those. So we have this decrease here, right? You see this trend is going up, 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 and then we have this little dip. So what is that dip? So let's explain the decrease. And I'm going to go zoom in here. Let's zoom back out. There we go. So if you look here, turns out that decrease was the year after Titanic came out. The movie industry tanked a little bit because Titanic was so big. So again, I can go ahead and just add that to my report right in line. And I can cross-highlight and filter, and I can look at Titanic and see how that one did. But now I'm going to show you another couple insights here. So I have this movie page here. And I'm looking at Stan Lee. Stan Lee has been in every Marvel movie, so it turns out he's the highest worldwide gross. And I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to click Find Insights. So what this is doing is actually just scoping our insights engine to Stan Lee. And it's just finding the most interesting trends across my data. And you can see here there's a couple interesting insights. We got PG-13, he's mostly in PG-13 movies. Actually, let's go ahead and add this, and let's start a different page just to make this one easier. So I'm going to paste that one. Paste. Let's do that one again. So let's take this chart, move it to another page. Let's run insights on Stan Lee. And what Insights allows you to do is it not only finds insights, you can add them to your page, and then you can actually just start editing. So what this allows you to do is start from edit instead of start from scratch when you're building a report. So I'm going to go ahead and add this PG-13 insight. As his movie ratings go down, so does the worldwide gross. Another thing Insights uncovers is issues with your data. So here I have my different categories of movies, and you can see it's not particularly clean. I have action and adventure over and over again. So now I know to go clean that up and prep that in the query editor. But there's an interesting insight here, if I just keep scrolling, around the movie DB score versus the Metascore. And they're kind of highly correlated for Stan Lee. So I've added a couple visuals, and I'm going to make these a little bit bigger. So, one click to add these, and I got a highly formatted visual. But even better, I can keep doing some analysis. So these two visuals are filtered on Stan Lee, right? But I want to see how it's doing across all actors. Is this the same for all actors? So all I need to do is go in here, remove the filter for Stan Lee, and now I start to see the trend for everyone. Let's do the same one here. Remove that filter. And now when I cross-highlight, I can start to see, okay, Samuel L. Jackson, that one's pretty correlated. Warwick Davis, okay, and I can start to see how this differs across my different actors. In addition, I can go here, and when I mouse over this, you see we're looking at revenue rank. I really want just movie title in here. I want to know what these outliers are. So I can go in and just change the movie title, place that, get rid of revenue rank. And so I started with this automatically generated visual that the machines told me I should use. And now I can tweak it because really I know my data set best, and I sort of know what I'm looking for, and the combination of these suggestions and then my knowledge of the data set really helped me author something really quickly. And now I can go ahead and I can look and see, okay, there are a couple weird outliers like this Myth of Fingerprints movie, which I've never heard of. And I can use our drill features to continue doing that analysis, drill in, see more, learn more about this data. So I'll go ahead and go back. So it's just something I wanted to highlight, which it's not only that we're bringing you automatic insights and that we're showing you something you may not have shown, but we're also making the authoring process really, really quick. And so that's another goal of Quick Insights.
I would actually add one more thing to that,
Yep.
which might not be apparent by the fact that you can now add these visuals to your canvas. We are adding a lot of new analytical features to our visuals because of Quick Insights. So for example, that waterfall chart she showed earlier,
Yep.
that was something, building this type of waterfall chart was not previously possible. We've developed this new layout for Quick Insights, but we are also going to give everyone access to just do this on their own, making their own waterfall chart as well. So as we continue to add new types of insights and create new formatting options for those insights, they become available for everyone to take advantage of in all of their visuals.
Yep. So we have a bunch of other things you could do here. You can do, I'm just going to show you one more, which is what's the difference? So you can pick two items in a chart, and you can start to compare how are they the same, how are they different from one another. We have this cool visual here that shows kind of between two actors, where are they filming? So Stan Lee and Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson is Nick Fury in a bunch of the Marvel movies, so their data is hardly correlated because they're in a bunch of movies together. But you can go in and start to play with different visuals for different types of analysis, and you can start to make those comparisons. So one of the things we're really excited about with this feature is this is just the start, right? We're gonna introduce a couple gestures. We'll see how you guys like it, and we're really excited to get your feedback on what are the common analysis paths that you guys are doing that take a lot of clicks, that take a lot of time, that you're kind of doing repeatedly, and how can we help with machine learning and with these new gestures to speed that process up for you and to make the authoring process easier. So we have about 3 minutes left. We wanted to take questions. So there are other sessions that you should definitely go check out. They'll all be online. But if anybody has any questions, we've got mics. If anybody wants to jump up, or you can come up and join us on stage.
Please use the microphones so that we don't have to keep repeating the question.
Yep. All right. Thanks, guys.